confirmation of the agenda.
I want to pull something off the consent agenda. Do you want to do that now or when the consent agenda is approved?
That you want more discussion on it?
I want to talk about what the.
We will do it at that time, Trevor.
That's fine.
That's fine.
That's fine.
You're moving the agenda though.
I will.
And Brock seconding. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the disclosure of pecuniary interest, if any. None noted. Okay, we'll go to the consent agenda. Councillor Syke, you had a question there?
Yeah, so the part that I'd like to talk about is 4.2.1.1, which is the department annual report. And it's part of the conversation, I think, is I know the annual fee report is based on a certain set in time, where 2015, we do one every year. But I'm wondering two things. One, if the annual report where it says the revenue and the expenses could have a comparison in there, that would give it a little more clarity to people who are looking at them as an individual. What is the change in the fees and that? And the other concern I have is it doesn't add. The revenue on the report, if you add up the two revenues, it does not add to the number that's in the total revenue column. It's out by $7,000. And I don't know what that is, but it doesn't match to something. So the other part for me is when you break out the permit revenue by structure type, that total permit fee line should, correct me if I'm wrong, should match to the revenue line on the page before. It doesn't match. So I want to ensure that when we provide information to ratepayers, that one, that it agrees to the GL that we are providing, and two, that it's giving all of them the right information. And I know it's probably typing numbers, because it's probably a document we just type the numbers and we're probably missing numbers. But I think as opposed to adopting it, I would rather see something that balances, but also has a comparison so people can understand that yes, it is a point in time, but we should see a year-over-year comparison in a glance. So yes, they could pull the 2014 annual report, but there's no reason why we can't have, unless somebody can tell me otherwise, why there wouldn't be a reason why we would have a year-over-year comparison. So those are just two things that I noticed in this particular report that doesn't, I think it shows the wrong message in the report. It's not giving all the right information, and that's, other than that, I think it was fine, but it's just that those types of things that I noticed.
Okay, Sharon, do you want to comment or?
Yeah, so if you want to pull that and we can check it and see if there are corrections to be made, and we can resubmit that next time.
I think it's best that we do.
Okay. So then the motion would remove that item and it will be brought back at the next meeting with corrections. Thank you.
With explanations. Okay. Anything else on the consent agenda that any of the councillors have a question with? Okay. Do I have a mover?
I move approval of those with the exception of the one that Councilor C pointed out.
As amended. Seconder. Councillor Britzman. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay. And moving to the report 6. 6.1.1 that the Township of the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receive the report of the Manager of Employee and Business Services entitled Audio/Video Recording Closed Session Meetings for Information Purposes, and that the procedure for electronic recording of closed sessions be approved. You're making the motion?
Yes.
Councillor Sipes seconding. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Moving to 6.3.1, it's for the food truck fundraiser, that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby permit the F.E. Medill Grade 8 class to host the Beaver Tail food truck as part of the road hockey tournament at the complex on March 16th, 2016. And further, that the food truck adhere to the hawkers and peddlers license policy and be required to pay the license fee of $200 to operate in North Huron.
Make that
Deputy
motion.
Reeve Campbell and Councillor Allen seconding.
Question?
Yes.
Who gets the revenue from that truck?
Beaver
He does.
Tail.
Pat?
So my understanding is the agreement between the fundraising committee and the Beaver Tail truck is that 10% of the proceeds will go to the grade 8 class from the Beaver Tail sales. That's a mouthful.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, any further questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay. 10.3.2. It's been a hard week on me this past week. 6.3.2. Blythe Greenway Trail Lease Extension and Amending Agreement.
I move.
The suggested motion, which is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to prepare an authorizing bylaw to sign the lease extension and amending agreement number 2 between Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Economic Development, Employment and Infrastructure and the Township of North Huron for the land use for the Blythe Greenway Trail. Councillor Vaughn moved. Seconder? Deputy Reeve Campbell. Comment or?
I just had a question through yourself to Pat. Just a little briefer explanation than what was in the, I read it, but fortunately after 15 hours of driving, I was a little bleary. What is the process that is supposed to happen if the G2G Trail makes its agreements?
So it's actually the long-term goal is for the province to sign a lease with Huron County for the entire G2G Trail that is in Huron County. And when that happens, there's provisions in the new lease extension agreement that would transfer or actually end our lease with the province in light of us signing a new and then at that time, it's open for negotiation with the county, whether we would lease that from them, our portion that we use for the Blythe Greenway Trail, or have some joint management agreement, or come up with some other solution that works for both of us. Currently, the portions of the trail, such as our trail, which are leased by the province to us, are maintained, and any of the unleased portions are currently leased to G2G. So it's right now all along the trail there are different lease groups with G2G picking up anything that wasn't currently leased, and my understanding is they're currently working on making amendments. I don't know if that helps answer your question, but the long-term goal is the province wants Huron County to take over the lease long-term.
Okay, to be, I guess to narrow it down a little more specifically, my concern may relate more to, let's say, the memory garden, which is part of that land lease. Now, what's gonna happen with that because G2G doesn't want that? How is that going to be handled?
How will that be ongoing maintained and such after it transfers to the county perhaps, or currently now when we sign this
Because
one?
we transfer this lease as it stands now, that portion of fire would transfer with it. It's all part of that lease, right?
So, by signing this extension, nothing changes tomorrow from what we are currently leasing. And we will continue to operate and manage our lease, which includes Memory Garden and the arch and all of the other pieces, until such time as either this lease ends, which is 5 years from now, or if before that the county takes over the entire lease, then at that time, it's all open discussions and nothing has been determined yet. But I believe the intention is that we would have opportunities to meet with the county and to discuss how we want to transfer any maintenance or management, or whether they would just then they would have an opportunity inside their lease to sublease to us again.
We'd end up subleasing all those pieces back again. I mean,
It just wouldn't be to the province, we would be leasing it back from the county, if that is what council chooses to do, our request from Huron County.
all right, that answers enough for me. Thank you.
James.
Through you, read to Pat, the arch, the bridge. Are you sure we want to own that bridge?
I spent a lot
I'm
of
thinking
time-
on the ongoing expenses that we could incur over this. Who owns the bridge?
The bridge is
Yes.
owned by the province of Ontario, and we are leasing it under this agreement. And the new provision in this extension is that we must have bridge inspections done. And that would start in 2017 to match with our bridge inspection schedule, so that we would save money by doing all of our bridges. I think we do 11 other
Yeah,
bridges. And should there be a challenge or a problem, I had the first change was quite short. I had a lot of things added, such as if the bridge does not pass inspection, we would have the opportunity to close that bridge and not allow traffic, or we can pay to fix it, or we can talk to G2G or whoever we want, but we have the opportunity to close that. The other portion is the pass under. And if they deem that to be unsafe, they want us to repair that or come back with an alternative solution, perhaps a bypass up through Memory Garden and around and down, some other way to bypass the arch. The other option, of course, is you can terminate the lease and renegotiate a new lease that would not include the arch at a future time. But ultimately, our trail does include going up over the arch and around and down. And because we go through it, the land, I've tried to say, can you take the bridge off? We'll just lease the piece that goes under.
That was gonna be my suggestion.
Yeah, they would not allow us to do that. Take it or leave it. It's inside the land lease. It's that portion of the land they've mapped out. And they say that is part of your land. So our lease goes just to the far side, or the east side of that bridge. And I guess there's nothing to fear until we have the inspection done. And then once if there turns out to be a problem, then there are ways through this that we can mitigate those to not incur, as I said, I don't want a $500,000 repair job for a bridge that we don't necessarily own. That's the exact conversation I had with them, and I can
Well, that's
see you
kind of
agree.
when I went through this, I thought, wow,
Yeah,
I'm not sure that we want the bridge. Because we
Right.
have enough bridges and culverts and stuff in our own municipalities that we have to keep up. So I just wanted to make sure that we have an out.
there's also
But
a
we could have
termination
the
option.
outcry from the people that still want it in there. Then what do we do? That belongs to the county then by that time, but.
It could belong to the county, it could still belong to the province, but your legal obligation to the province inside this lease is that there are ways around use.
Mhm.
When we close that, then the snowmobilers will wonder how they're going to get through. But that's a future discussion. We won't know the answer till we have the investigation. Our obligation is to have it inspected.
If I may, I think I'll add a point that one of my fellow county councilors, Councillor Donnelly, brought forward. Remember when you are leasing, you are covered by the Occupier's Liability Act, which he said, in essence means if you have care and control of it, you're in charge of the liability. Just a point, Councillor Syke next.
Yeah, I guess my question is that there's two questions, so I'll ask you, Reeve, through you to Pat, is one, the $125, that's just one time, so from now till the end of the lease, it's gonna go up $125. And then it's gonna be $325 for every year after that, is that correct?
It's gonna be $325 starting 2016 and on, yes,
So
every year,
every year for the
Yeah.
5 years?
yes.
So the question I have is, 5 years is a long time. Is that the right way to do it, or should there be a cost of living or a cost of consumer price index, whatever the case may be? I'm just asking the question. The other question, I follow the same line, or my other comment is, I follow the same lines as Councillor or Deputy Reeve Campbell, is we have a liability for that bridge that we're to do an inspection. We don't own that bridge. Why is the taxpayers of North Huron gonna take on fees or for a bridge that we don't own? We have enough things with what we own, let alone ones that we have. And I understand leasehold improvements and all that other stuff, but we get the benefit of the use. We're paying for that benefit of the use. So the concern I have is that we have, and I think we've answered the question, so I reiterate the comment that if we have outs that we can get out of this agreement based on issues with that bridge, if they come a day that happens, then I support the lease in the way it reads. But if there is no out, I can't support it the way for a North Huron ratepayer to take on another cost for property they don't technically own.
Councillor Vaughn.
Another alternative is we could rebuild the arch. What I'm suggesting, with tongue in cheek, is if we can open that up so that there's no obstruction, people can go right through, maybe that's the best solution. It could be costly, I suppose, but it would certainly make a much better trail.
Pat.
I just wanted to add that I have reached out to the G2G representative to try to set up a meeting, because it's my understanding that they are receiving funding for trail improvements. And perhaps if in 2017 our bridge turns out to be a challenge and difficult to repair, there may be opportunities through them to also reach out for some help. I have no idea, but yes, there are outs. I read the original lease so that I know there's a termination clause. Obviously it then impacts the whole trail agreement is gone, but I think that, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
No pun intended.
No pun intended, right? One step at a time.
Just one more.
Councillor Camp.
So the statement that you made before about the insurance, it's our insurance that covers what we have leased?
Correct.
And so the snowmobile club is not liable for anything that happens from snowmobiles on that trail?
So that's another item on the agenda, which I would be happy to address then, or I can address it now if you would prefer, Reeve.
No, that's fine. I just,
Okay, here's another,
This
we're gonna
motion, it
sub-agree.
would muddle it a bit.
okay.
So the new lease allows us, the old lease did not permit this. This new lease allows us to set up a permit agreement with a snowmobile club that's registered with the Ontario Snowmobile Federation. And that's the next item, which would then turn their liability over to them.
We'll talk about it then.
Councillor Syke.
So just to kind of, I think my question got muddled with my comment about the actual increase in rent.
Okay.
Is just the increase of 125 over 5 years the right way to go about this?
That is the way all the leases have been for a stated amount, and it carries through for the 5 years. That's the way the property management company has asked for it to be done.
The property management company meaning
Dell
Dell Management.
that operate on behalf of the provincial government.
So they've asked for this. So the conversation though is, are we okay with that? We're asking, the part for me is 5 years is a long time. And we have once we sign an agreement for 5 years, we've got no recourse to change our revenue stream if something changes.
Pat, I think
Sorry.
I'll let you answer.
Yeah, so, it's not our revenue stream, it's the amount we pay them to let us use the trail. So it has,
Okay, I misunderstand.
that's okay, it has increased, as I felt it had increased substantially from the $200 to the $325, so I did question the management company about that. I felt that was a large jump. And their explanation to me is that it hasn't increased since I think the original lease in 95. And what they've done is they've assessed the acreage, the use, the community benefit, and come up with this figure of 325.
So sorry, I just want to reiterate, I had thought that this was rent for us, not, I use rent as rent income, not necessarily rent expense. We're paying
That's
it,
expense.
you know what, if they want to jump at 325 for the next 5 years, okay.
That's what we would pay them.
Yeah, but if it's a one-time $125, is
Yeah.
they're not putting any cost in
No.
increases, then that's their own,
Yeah.
that's the way they want to do it. I was expecting it the other way. That's kind of what I'm used to.
Okay. I read that. Okay,
I'm just not
Right.
quite understanding that again. We're paying them
yes,
to rent them a piece of land, okay? To rent from them.
Problems. Okay, I'll get it.
Okay, I think I understand it now. I'm just thinking that back through that.
okay.
The bridge bothers me because, really bothers me in the fact that that's the whole part of the trail. If that bridge arch disappeared, that would spoil the whole trail because it's pretty unique. You know, there's pictures of trains going both ways underneath it, so that is the thing. So it's probably gonna have to be kept up somehow.
Yeah, if it's deemed to be, once again, it's only for pedestrian use.
Right.
It's,
but-
and snowmobiles, it's not for automobiles or anything else. And
I understand.
so we don't anticipate that there would be any structural
Right,
problems. However,
Yeah.
I'm not an engineer,
no.
but when we get that first report, we'll examine it carefully and bring those results back to council.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Singh.
I'll make the motion to recommend the.
We already
Oh,
have
I'm sorry.
Brock and James on the motion. Any further questions on it? Before I ask the question, all in favor? Carried. Okay, 6.3.3, the Wingham Horticultural Society Memorandum of Understanding. Motion that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby direct staff to prepare a memorandum of understanding between the Wingham District Horticultural Society and the Township of North Huron. And further, the Township of North Huron support the upcoming 50th celebration of the Wingham and District Horticultural Society on Saturday, July 23rd, 2016, and waive the park rental fee for using the park for their celebration. Councillor Kaminga,
You have a question or a comment?
seconding also,
Yes, I am.
Councillor Syke. Go ahead with your question.
So it's more of a comment. I think this is these memorandums of understanding, I think, are critical to understanding who's responsible for what. I think too many times we go into a verbal discussion or a verbal agreement and it lasts 20 years and then the members of both things change and we all lose what is the real focus of the real group's responsibility and approval. So I think this should be kind of the template of what we do going forward with all volunteer groups that are doing work within the municipality on municipal owned land or whatever the case may be. because that would just, one, covers us for the liability portion, but it also covers us for responsibility. We don't want to be treated that we're treating groups unfairly because they don't know what their responsibility are compared to what ours is. So I commend this type of arrangement because I think memorandums of understanding can help both parties, not just municipality, but it also helps the volunteer group.
Councillor Vaughan.
I also like to commend the idea of waiving the fee in this case. I think this is a very legitimate, with regard to the tremendous amount of work that this
The
does.
in-kind work
It
that
would
gets
be
done.
very unkind to impose a fee.
Okay, yes. Any other discussion on this? All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving back to the memorandum of understanding with the snowmobile trail land used for the Blythe Greenway Trail, and the motion that the council of the township of North Huron hereby direct staff to prepare an authorizing bylaw to sign the memorandum of understanding prescribed snowmobile trail land use permission for the Blythe Greenway Trail. Deputy Reeve Campbell moves, Councillor Sipes seconds. Any discussion? Councillor, or Deputy Reeve Campbell?
I'm back to the insurance thing again. And you know, because I know the snowmobile club has had trouble with insurance. For people who have got hurt, they have gone off the trail and have got hurt, but they were on the trail, missed a turn, and went off the trail. I have a neighbor that's been in court now for 5 years. His legal bill now is almost $100,000, and it has never been settled yet. And the snowmobile club walked away from it. So it's between the two people because it happened off the trail. And the snowmobile club has helped him in no way, shape, or form. So I just want to make sure that we're covered on this trail because the person that went off the trail is suing for $1 million. And that's the normal fee, but the snowmobile club has walked away from it. And I want to make sure if those snowmobiles are running on our trail that we are covered along with the snowmobile club.
I can't speak to any other case. All I understand from this memorandum of understanding and speaking to District 9 of the Ontario Snowmobile Association, of which the North Huron Snowmobile Club is a member of District 9, that this is the standard memorandum of understanding for use. And in preparation, they've already forwarded us a copy of their insurance with Township of North Huron named as an additional insured. But in any type of situation, there's always risk, and we can't mitigate all risk, but my understanding is that their insurance would be the first to respond if the snowmobile member is on our trail and is using it legitimately under their club rules. But I mean, it would be very difficult for somebody who wasn't permitted use on our trail to then claim that they have something that we've been negligent in some way if they weren't to be there in the first place. So to answer your question, we've been covered off with their insurance policy. We've received a copy of it. It's standard. This is the agreement that they have all across Ontario for use of trails.
So are we the third party in the insurance?
We're what's called additional insured,
Yeah.
which is not really,
Yes,
yeah.
we're the third
So
party.
it means that they respond first and that, yeah.
So if they get nothing out of the insurance, then we're the ones that are going to get stuck with it as a third party.
We would have to have been negligent for them to find us with some sort of issue, right?
But
So,
they usually take the big people, and I'm saying the township is the big person here. They're the ones that usually come in and take the brunt of it.
What I suspect that Deputy Reeve Campbell is bringing in is the provincial government has not did anything towards joint and several liability in machinery accidents. I think as long as they were on our property, that it could be construed as trail. But if they got far enough off the trail, really the only thing that a property owner can do is sue for trespass before liability suit gets filed. And yes, unfortunately, it's into lawsuits all the time, but, and I'll waste a moment's time saying, coming through London, it was after a Knights game yesterday, it was disillusioning to me to see 4 big buildings, all personal injury lawyers. It's unfortunately, it's the way of too much of big city and the law. Pat, I don't see
Well, I guess,
any problem with it being the snowmobile club covering it while they're at least close to the trail on our property, but there's all kinds of liabilities out there.
Yeah.
Councillor Syke.
And I don't think even close to the trail would work. Their insurance is gonna cover when they're on the trail. If you're off the trail, it has nothing to do with their insurance, because they're gonna state in their policy that you weren't on the trail. So that's what our insurance is covering for. So the conversation is always gonna be, insurance is never gonna be, you're never gonna limit all the risk. The only way to eliminate all the risk is to not allow them on it. That's the only way.
After this incident, there was a lot of farmers pulled their land off the trail.
And that is the roads ratepayers' choice. They can do that. The conversation is whether it's the right decision for us to mitigate that risk by taking it all off, or saying, mitigating the risk by saying, you know what, you gotta go to the snowmobile club first, and then if you don't get anywhere with them, by the way, we're still here, but you're gonna have to somehow prove negligence on our part in some respect to get anywhere. Yeah, and it's 1%, mind you, that's the whole joint and several liability. All they have to do is prove 1%. But the conversation is that the only way we're gonna limit the risk is eliminate it completely. And I don't think that's the right answer either.
No, I don't.
Councillor Knott.
My only concern, to be honest with you, because what I noticed this year, and last year a little bit, but this year at the snowmobile trail was a failure of the snowmobile club to actually post their signage and their trail limiters properly. In the past, there are always stakes, and that's when you end up with the issues in the farm field when they don't stake the trail properly and someone ends up at night off of the trail in the farm field. That ultimately is negligence on the part of the snowmobile club to properly delineate the trail. But what they did this year is until the very end, in fact, the last snowfall, there were no stop signs, no T intersection warnings. There are no delineating at the top of the trail in Blythe where the trail intersects and goes north. No signage, no delineating poles. So you can come up the top of that trail hellbound for leather. There is no signage indicating that there's a turn or that the trail ends there. It doesn't. They end up in Chris Lee's parking lot. Okay. And there was no stop sign at the T intersection at the bottom of the hill until about 3 weeks ago. Because I went down and checked and it wasn't there. Now that to me it becomes an issue because I don't want to see anybody get hurt. It's a dangerous intersection. They go through there at excessive speeds. They're actually only supposed to go through there in the urban speed limit. They don't. They travel in excess of 80, 90 kilometers an hour down that piece of trail. My concern with this memorandum of understanding is there's nothing in here. It says that there's supposed to be improper signage, but there's nothing in here saying they have to notify us that the signage is done and it gets inspected and somebody says, yes, you've actually put in the signage. It's all reliant on them doing it, and they didn't do it. Is there any way we can have an addendum that has somebody inspect, whether it's from the Ontario Snowmobile Club, and tell us that the proper signage is in place? Can we do that to make sure it is?
It's my understanding, and I can absolutely check into this further because we have some time here. That this is their standard agreement across the province, and if we were to make any changes to it, it gets tossed to the side and our lawyers have to draft a brand new agreement of which their lawyers will then agree to. So any change to it is not permitted. So an addendum, I don't know. But what I can further do is go to our insurance company and have them take a closer look at this, but also go back to the snowmobile club and ask them what is their procedure, and it's up to them once they sign this to follow that procedure. It's not our responsibility to check up on it. Once they've signed that they are going to do A, B, and C, they've agreed to do A, B, and C, and if they don't, then there opens up their negligence. It
That's all
doesn't
I
become
can-
our negligence. It doesn't
And
say in
I-
here that we will make sure that they follow
I
that.
agree. My
Yeah.
concern is that we don't want to have anybody get hurt. Is there any way we can ensure, and I'm not asking you to change the memorandum, I'm saying, can we add an addendum that says we would like an independent release from someone, even from the Ontario Snowmobile Club, from their District 9, to say they've put up the proper signage before we open the trail, before we unlock that gate?
I guess it's a double-edged sword. As soon as we ask for more responsibility, we take on more liability. So if that makes sense, I hope I'm trying to be as clear as I can, but I think what I would prefer to do is to go back and prepare more information for council. There's a lot of questions here which I would like to have some time to go back and bring back more information. And that really, I need to talk to our insurance company, because if we ask for opportunities for us to inspect or to review or that they have to tell us that they have done it or what have you before we unlock the gate, where does that put our liability? I want to check that out first.
That's fine.
Okay.
I would recommend that we do that
Sure.
before we proceed. And
Okay, that I would look at possibly a tabling motion for this, for Pat to get more correspondence, and you will make that,
I'll
Councillor
make a
Knott,
motion to table this for further information.
and Councillor Bodden seconds. All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving to 6.4.1. That the suggested motion that the council of the Township of North Huron accept the license extension and amending agreement number 2 under the lease ID M72546 between Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Minister of Economic Development, Employment and Infrastructure, that the staff be directed to prepare the applicable bylaw for the next meeting. You're moving, Councillor Knott. Seconder? Councillor Sype. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, utilities, 6.5.1, the utilities report, Blythe Well upgrade status report, and that the council of the Township of North Huron hereby accepts the report of the CAO regarding the tender for the Blythe Well supply upgrade is received for information. And further, that clerk is instructed to provide public notice for a budget meeting to be on March 29th, 2016 at 7 p.m. with the Blythe Well Supply upgrade tender to be awarded at the said meeting. You're moving, Councillor Allies, and Councillor Bodden seconding. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. 6.7.1, OPP costing update, committee appointment. Suggested motion that the council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives CAO report A-16-4-3 concerning establishment of a policing advisory committee. And further, the council hereby appoints the following individuals to the Policing Advisory Committee. Wingham Police Chief Tim Poole, North Huron Police Services Board Chair, North Huron Councillor Trevor Syke, Reeve Neil Vincent, and North Huron Police Services Board Member Bill Gregory. I just call him Bill all the time.
He owns the restaurant down.
Yeah, I know. I go there, I talk to him a lot, but I just call him Bill. Yeah, Gregory. And further, the council appoints the following staff resources to the committee. CAO Sharon Chambers, committee secretary Kathy Adams, clerk, and that the clerk is directed to prepare a bylaw to ratify the appointment. And further, that the committee shall develop terms of reference to be approved by council and attached as a schedule to the Policing Advisory Committee appointment bylaw. Okay, Councillor Ritzman Deninga and Councillor Knott. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, 6.7.2, Shared Services Project Committee Terms of Reference. And that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report of the CAO regarding the Shared Services Project update and terms of reference documents for the information purposes. And further, that the clerk be directed to prepare bylaws to adopt the Shared Services Steering Committee terms of reference and the Shared Services Implementation Team terms of reference for March 21st regular council meeting. Deputy Reeve Campbell moving. Councillor Knott seconding. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, pardon? Moving to correspondence. The Belgrave Summer Festival 2016. And,
Ordered, read, and filed.
pardon?
Do we have,
We have
is there a motion on
to
there?
have a motion to approve the quote.
Yeah.
Oh,
That the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby approve the request from the Belgrave Summer Festival Committee and that the Belgrave Community Center Board to close Jordan Drive in Belgrave from Queen Street to Jordan Drive from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on June 18th for the Belgrave Summer Festival. In essence, that means through the subdivision. And further, that the County of Huron and Emergency Services be notified. Councillor Syke and Councillor Knott. All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving to agenda item. Oh, Reeves activity report. Amo Good Roads was a very active convention. Number of good sessions. Our Sunday session with explaining our shared partnership with municipal affairs and housing. It went, I think, very well. I talked to a number of the people involved on the other side of the table the following day. They discussed it at length after they were done all their other commitments. And Bruce Curtis, head of the London office, and Roger Moyer, that's been a long-time soldier in the western area, talked to them for about 10 or 15 minutes. They even suggested that we, for the municipal affairs one-day update meeting, the end of November, that's always so well attended, that we maybe have a 15-minute presentation to give at that conference day in the fall. I'm not sure whether I brought council up that Mayor Gowing and myself are invited to an AMO senior staff meeting and board meeting in Muskoka for the 8th of April to provide concept report and a whole bunch of other things that my CAO is going to have a number of numbers available for me. But at the convention, the number of people that came up to me and said, how did it ever come about? And we just said that we blamed it on the county's shared services day, and that our CAOs took it to heart and really looked at where can we find benefit of a partnership, and that I explained it to a number of people that the amalgamations that took place were like marriages. Some worked, some didn't. That the original concept of our shared partnership was that it was a business decision on business principles that were to work to give the best service, and as a byproduct, it's at a better price. As well, that there was a Federation of Agriculture MPP Municipal Councillor Day last week, and there was a number of points dealing with agriculture and the effects of what federal, provincial, and municipal could be on them, and it brought a better understanding, I think, to all that were at it, as to for every action, there's a reaction someplace, and it brought a number of them out for seeing the broad picture. Also this morning, that there was a number of us at the Libro Center at the Clinton Arena on breakfast on economic development, and we were looking at what the city of Fredericton did, their Laura Guthrie that headed up their economic development, developing ambassadors for your projects, and that with a number of the things that are happening within North Huron, I see that as a good thing, that we maybe need to look at that and develop ambassadors, crib notes, and other things on what all is happening. That I know as councillors, we hear a bit more than some of the other people, but for those people that are visiting the States, visiting other provinces, visiting Europe, just carrying a positive note from our community is such a great thing, and my understanding is that is what has really helped Fredericton into, they claim to have 720 ambassadors that routinely get their updates on what is happening and what's moving forward. So that as those people are traveling to other places, they put the best foot forward and explain how they've invited business, got immigration, and got better service. I think I will leave Reeves' remarks at that. I'm not going into much from county council, that I think the special meeting that we will be having Wednesday after committee of the whole day one will officially approve county budget, and there's a number of things that in donations to certain things, hopefully they are done at that meeting, but those things will be coming out of reserves rather than out of the taxpayer portion of the ratepayer portion of the budget. Council member reports. Councilor Sight.
More just an update for some council members, that the Building Bridges is having a first annual gala on April the 30th. They are having Julie Sawchuk, the teacher from F. Medill. She's going to be a speaker, as well as Paralympians at that. There's tickets available in all local communities. Blythe, I believe, is at the Queen's Bakery, or at Park 2 Bistro, I believe it has it there. So they're in all the areas in which they basically went and have students or people that go to those to Maitland River. So there's tickets available. It is April the 30th. It's I believe 5 till 9, I think, or 5 till 11 or 12 or whatever it is. But it is one of their major fundraising events. Most of their events are been kind of barbecues and that type of stuff. This is the biggest, I would say, the biggest task they have had on their plate to provide lots of funding. They are getting very close to the rest of the playground structure, as you've seen in the notations of and what else is coming out in the media. So I think there's some good things going on at that group. There's a lot of interested people, and I'm hoping that the community can support this kind of initiative as do us councillors. So.
Councilor Knott.
Although I've been away quite a bit lately and will continue to be so, I'd like to say that I continue to get very positive feedback on our shared services agreement from various people around the community, especially in Blythe, who some of them who surprised me, but they've actually stood up and said they think this is a great idea and they hope it works. So I just wanted everybody to know that we do seem to have an awfully big bulge of community support for this, although we don't always hear it. I have been getting feedback, and so that's good. I've also noticed in the municipal newsletters that float around from different departments and so on, mentions of it within that kind of surprised me that in various parts they've made mention of 2 municipalities that have entered into a shared services agreement, and that they're going to report further on it in their little newsletters. So that's a good thing. So we're getting lots of good press out of it. It has been an amazing thing. So kudos to all into the committee to keep rolling forward. Hopefully the implementation will occur relatively seamlessly, I hope, so. Relatively seamlessly. We don't expect perfection, but hopefully everything will work out well. And just for a little bit of fun tonight, we have a new observer watching us tonight from the Rural Business Network on our live feed, whose comment so far is that the video is great and the audio seems to be working okay, but it's kind of boring looking at the tops of our heads. So if you all want to turn and give them a big wave, say hi to the Rural Business Network. We're located in Central Huron, and we're also involved in the BIAs throughout Ontario. So it's they're taking a look at how we do things here. So that's good. So okay.
Okay. And probably the one that I should have head first rather than the Good Roads Convention. Basically, the Cowbell Brewing opening night, very positive. And I have had a number of people from throughout the municipality offer to put their names forward as taste testers if needed. All good news, and that having a business stepping forward in something major like that, while the building is outside of our municipal boundaries, we're definitely part of it and looking at it being a strong, thriving business into the future. Councillor Ritzman-Kalinga.
So on February 25th, the Wingham BIA had their AGM, and we were pleased to give out some great awards. So if you didn't read the wonderful article in the Advance Times, the Civic Improvement Award went to Doug Hyvenhoven and Jeff Drost for Family Tree and Petropolis. Business of the Year went to Family Tree. Volunteer of the Year went to Theron Riley, and Lifetime Achievement went to Bruce Staten for Staten's Home Hardware. Been in business for 75 years, so it was really exciting to celebrate them and some of the new businesses. Something like that. Looking forward to next year's.
I didn't think Bruce was that old.
He's the third generation.
Yeah. A little statement.
Councillor Wadden, did you have?
Yes. Just to add to the comment on the Cowbell project, I recall just after amalgamation, people in Blythe began to notice that we had a lot of storefronts that were either vacant or used as living quarters. And so we brought that to council's attention. And out of that, we also got a small grant. So we hired a consultant to come in to help us with recruiting businesses. And she made very clear to us that we were taking the wrong approach altogether, which was very true. However, the one story that she gave us that was most telling was the fact that if you're looking for assured developers and investors, they're already living in your community. They are the ones that you can depend on and will give you the best value, and it's not very expensive to recruit them. And that has proven to be extremely true over the years. And the example of the Cowbell breweries is a living example of that history repeating itself.
So
I think if there are no requests by members, that's just if anybody wants any reports researched by staff, they can.
So there's no notice of motion,
And no bylaws this evening,
no bylaws this evening?
other than the confirmatory after
Yes.
closed.
No announcements. And so we moved to
There's no other business.
yeah, point 13, closed session and reporting out. Okay, in that, the council of the Township of North Huron do hereby proceed. We have
Yes, we do.
To an in-camera session, and that it is for personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employee. And personnel matters about an identifiable individual, and personal, relating to personnel matters relating to the shared services project. Do I have an order? Councillor Vaughn and Councillor Ritzman-Kaninga. All in favor? Okay. We will have a short recess